Right, let's call the meeting to order. Roll call.
Mr. Lamar?
Present.
Mr. Kubicki?
Present.
Ms. Hughes?
Present.
Okay, we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. First of all, I make a motion to approve the signing of the meeting minutes, the regular meeting minutes of October 10th, 2023. 2023, do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Roll call.
Mr. Lamar?
Yes.
Mr. Kubicki?
Yes.
Ms. Hughes?
Yes.
Okay, and next I make a motion that we approve the special meeting minutes of October 23rd, 2023. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Roll call.
Mr. Lamar?
Yes.
Mr. Kubicki?
Yes.
Ms. Hughes?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, then we move on to open forum.
All right, first we got Mr. Tom Schramm.
Since I'm on video, I'll introduce myself. I'm Tom Schramm from Indian Hill Place. And the reason I wanted to make a comment
Hey,
today,
Tom, real quick, could you say your address? I know Indian Hill Place.
6870 Indian Hill Place, 45227.
Okay?
And I'm the president of the HOA at Indian Hill Place. And I wanted to compliment the Hamilton County Sheriff's Department, specifically Lieutenant Neighbor, who assisted one of our residents who had lost a planner in which she had, it's on paper, and in which she had in her entire life, was offering a reward. And someone called her and tried to set up a meeting at the Evanston Community Center, and then she went there, missed him, and it was going back and forth, and she called me in a panic, and I referred her to Lieutenant Neighbor, who then took it upon himself to get in the middle of all of this. The planner was returned, a reward was given, and there was nothing else done, but he certainly saved our resident an awful lot of trouble. And I just wanted to say that the Sheriff's Department does more than just stop crime or respond to crime. They also get involved to help people when things like this occur. So thanks very much, Lieutenant Neighbor.
Awesome.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. Great stuff.
All right, and then Mr. Mike Ty?
Yeah, Mike Ty, 4234 Wayne Ave. Just a couple simple questions. Do we have a long-term plan for 6805 Murray Avenue? It looks like, according to the agenda, that we're applying for a grant through the Department of Development for demolition of the building. Is that now? Is that correct? I mean, is that what's on the agenda today?
6805 Cambridge.
Cambridge, that's what I meant. I said Cambridge, yeah. And the other one, 5770 Stewart Avenue.
5770.
5770 Stewart Avenue.
It's on the agenda.
Okay.
So, I just, the building might be, not useful anymore. I don't know. I have never been in there, to tell you the truth. But I guess you have plans, or you're going to make it a parking lot. Is that what the plans are moving forward with it?
We'll discuss it on the agenda
Yeah.
when we get to that.
It's definitely on the agenda. We can address that then. But
And then,
go ahead.
the last thing, David, real quick, this might be a good opportunity to go back into the comprehensive master plan, and so the community could put, what's going to happen with that property and other properties. Might be a good opportunity. There's some vacant properties on Plainville, and I don't know what's going to happen with them, but Charlie's, I don't know what he's doing, but he's not maintaining them like he usually does. So there's going to be some opportunities, and it'd be a good opportunity to go back into the comprehensive plan. It's been at least 10 years, I believe.
6.
It's been a while. I know we talked about just 3 years ago when we had all the police and everything else. It would be a good opportunity to go back, to look at it and see. But is the plan to have it redeveloped, the 6805 Cambridge, or is it to use it as a...
It's on the agenda, and I'll let Melissa address that. But is that all the questions?
That's all.
Okay, great. Thanks for coming, Mike.
Yeah.
I'd
Why
like
don't you
to
go?
respond to
Go ahead.
Mr. Ty's comment about I'm glad that you brought that up, actually, the comprehensive plan. So we already have done initial work for the new comprehensive plan. We have put together a tentative schedule for the comprehensive plan. It's typically a 10 to 18-month process, and we have reached out to communities who we consider best practice peers and talked with them about recent comprehensive plans that they have completed and what consultants they used and any takeaways that they had from their process. And then we've been collecting names of some of those consultants, and our next step on our tentative schedule is to reach out to some of the different consulting firms that do comprehensive plans and ask them what their capacity is to take on a comprehensive plan update in 2024. We wanted to do it, we want to schedule it so that if we're able to move forward with the firehouse renovation, that when the firehouse opens is when we would reach the point when we would have community engagement type activities. So we have the bid opening for the firehouse. I have that in my report. And then once we have the schedule from the contractor, assuming all that moves forward, then we go back to where we are in the comprehensive plan process and see if the schedule for the opening of the firehouse would fit with some of the consultants that we would provide proposals to give us a cost estimate to do our comprehensive plan. So I actually appreciate that you brought that up, because we've been doing that in the background for a number of months and have not brought it to the board yet. So hope that's helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Mike.
And then we just have one public comment, and this was to Dustin, our road superintendent, but also Melissa's on it. Thanks so much for you and your team for pruning the trees in Ridgewood for a few weeks ago. You guys did a great job. I can now walk around my neighborhood again without ducking all the time. I'm 6'3", and I really appreciate it. Early Thanksgiving wishes to everyone in the Columbia Township office. You are all valued very much for keeping the township ran so well. Thanks, Tom from the Sand Ridge.
Is that, does he have his last name on there?
Brochure?
Borcher?
B-O-R-C-H-E-R.
Tom is a really neat guy in the Ridgewood neighborhood. He's out and about quite a bit and notices things and will bring them to our attention. And we are really kind of boots on the ground. We really appreciate him. So that's really nice. Thank you. We'll tell Dustin.
Yeah, maybe.
Any other comments, sir?
That's it. No, that's it.
And the tree pruning is part of NED, Neighborhood Economic Development Program, part of our arborist, Jerry, who, as you're aware, assesses the health of all of our street trees on a regular schedule and then puts any that are at risk for disease or death on a monitor list and then follows back up with them. And that's part of us for the safety of our residents and pedestrians and others to get out ahead of any potential trees that could die or something like that. So,
Okay. Appreciate it. Okay. We move on from open forum. We move on to reports. In stepping in for Ms. Heekin, if you haven't noticed, is our wonderful resident services coordinator, jack of all trades here, Ms. Lauren Allison. So you're in charge of the fiscal officer's report.
I'm going to try. All right, so October is the first month of the final quarter of the 2023 budget year. The general fund ending balance is $4,225,519, which is an increase of 25% from September. The restricted fund ending balance is $6,774,278, which is an increase of 12% from September. And combined, these funds total $10,999,797, which is a 17% increase from September. For the month of October, our revenues are $397,369. Our expenses are $496. And the year-to-date revenues are $6,460,955, and our expenses are $4,133,673. Hamilton County First House property tax revenue settlement occurred in March of 2023. The second half semi-annual settlement occurred in September of 2023, and posting was final in early November. Residential levy revenues do not cover the cost of township public services. Business revenues cover more than 80% of the cost of public services in Columbia Township. Thanks to Columbia Township's success in attracting and supporting businesses, we can continue to provide our community with exceptional services at a lower cost for our residents.
Thank you. Very good job.
Very well.
Very well, well done. Okay, anybody got any questions?
No.
Thank you, Brian.
Always threaten lots of questions.
Always.
Okay, that we move on to the road superintendent report. Any questions about Mr. Frazier's report?
I don't have any questions. I have a comment, really. I bet that's what you're going to say, but I'll try to beat you to the punch. They've already done 2 leaf pickups since October 19th. They mentioned trimming street trees, as mentioned in the email that Lauren read. All glass light mantles in Ridgewood were checked and replaced as needed. Road salt, they're getting ahead of that. And you mentioned partnering with the Good Shepherd Montessori School on the walkathon, which is right by where I live, so it's near and dear to me. So the point, I think, is they've done so much work already this fall. I really appreciate them, all the hard work, and I know that my neighbors do as well. And so it's just really kudos.
This is our most intensive season. We are doing brush pickup, which is annual. We're doing seasonal leaf pickup, and if we have a snow and ice event and we have to retool the equipment, certain parts have to come off, other parts have to come on. We have multi-purpose equipment. But what I was actually going to say is that it's 64 degrees outside on today, November the 14th, and we just finished loading 200 tons of salt for the winter between 2 different facilities. So they've been hustling. Thank you, guys.
And
Go ahead.
700 gallons of water on flower pots, so they do a lot more than most people notice.
And as a PSA, we did a podcast a while back from our resident tree expert is Jerry. And you don't necessarily have to rake up all the leaves in your yard. Some of them on the ground.
Oh, yes.
Actually, you good. We say that to kind of give a little bit of a break for our team. But there's a lot of articles out there that you don't have to rake up every last leaf. And so it's actually good for your lawn. But people like to do it, and our guys are there, and they do an unbelievable job. Okay, that we move on to the administrator's report with the wonderful, always talented Ms. Taylor.
Thank you, sir. So on the subject of our crew, I know that I had mentioned this before, but I was able to get a picture, and I wanted to make sure that it went into the administrator's report. Two of our crew members went to the annual Hamilton County Rodeo, ROADEO, and one crew member took 2nd place, Jamie Evanchek, and Rob French took 5th place. So two of our crew that went took 2 of the top 5 positions, and so it's a picture of them on the front.
Jamie, 2nd place.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a little rivalry going on there.
Yeah.
He always does pretty good.
He turns it on. We already talked about all the different crew services that are happening now, so that's on page 2. I have an update on the medical marijuana revenue sharing. You know, we have 2 dispensaries, so as everyone is aware, on October 7th, Ohio voters passed issue 2 to legalize recreational marijuana. We have looked at potential impacts on our dispensaries. There's a number of state legislators who have said, many of you are following this, that they plan to intensively tinker with that legislation before it actually is final. So we have to wait to see what happens there, what type of voter pushback there may or may not be. And then we will have a better understanding of what the impact might be, positive or negative, on our medical marijuana dispensaries.
And is that article that we all passed around and read about, it looks like no matter what happens, the recreation will probably take place for 9 months. Is that kind of what we're kind of hearing from the tea leaves?
Yeah, depending on how long the legislators take and what they try to do, then if somebody tries to repeal or whatever.
Because some people
undo it, yes, whatever they do, that somebody tries to undo it.
Some people ask the question,
Great
okay,
word.
January 1st is going into effect and people are going to go, buy gummies or do whatever, and it won't happen that quickly. They'll
Start growing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't totally understand all of it and won't editorialize on any of it, but I'm just saying, whatever the case is, it looks like what we're hearing is that whatever laws change, you won't see anything change in terms of how people are able to buy and consume for probably 9 months
And
to a year.
grow.
Yeah, so, okay.
Our popular Lieutenant Paul Neighbor and I and Major Chris Ketteman of the Hamilton County Sheriff's Department spent some quality time together recently discussing the renewal of our 3-year contract. And I assured all of them that we are so grateful for them, and what they do is, evidenced by Mr. Schramm saying tonight that they appreciate not just the crime services, but also the community-based policing services. We appreciate that. So at the December meeting, I will bring forward a recommended contract renewal for 2024, 2025, and 2026 for passage effective January 1. And if anyone has any questions in advance of that, community members or trustee, I'll be reaching out to each of you to discuss the terms of it. And I know that I already started doing that. If anyone in the community has any questions about that or would like to see example of our contracts, I'm happy to provide that. Just call me or email me. So I mentioned last month, and this is just a brief update, that Little Miami Fire and Rescue, that financial assistance, fee for services that Fairfax and Columbia Township are entering into in order to, for the time being, assure the sustainability of the Little Miami Fire District. Columbia Township at our last meeting passed the resolution where we agree to provide financial assistance to the Little Miami Fire District starting in 2024 and then annually thereafter. My understanding from Mayor Shelton in Fairfax is that they plan to finalize their vote this month. And then the Little Miami Fire District has asked if both communities would be willing to make an early payment in 2023, even though the payments were not contemplated for 2020 until 2024 for various reasons, but specifically to help the carry forward balance for the Little Miami budget into 2024 look stronger or be stronger. And so if that is something that is finalized in terms of the Little Miami's ask to each of our member communities, I will bring that forward to you at the December meeting, or if we have a special meeting before then, because we potentially need one for the firehouse, I can bring some items before you on that as well. So that'll be up for discussion later. Under great things are happening in Columbia Township, of all of our events for the year, our next one is the Friday after Thanksgiving. Tree lighting.
It's the Thursday.
I'm sorry.
You're good. It's Thursday, November
Thank you.
30th. You're fine.
Because it's always on a Thursday, and so I thought when
So
I
it's
saw
not
that Friday.
December 1st, it is Thursday.
November
Yeah, I appreciate you
30th.
doing
Yeah, we were kind of torn.
We-
The first day of December falls on a Friday, and we like to do it the first Thursday of December, so we'd have to wait a whole other week, and there's just a lot going on. Holidays have already started, so we decided to beat
Move
everybody
it.
to the punch and do November 30th.
And I'm glad that you said that, because we've always kept it on Thursdays because the traffic on Plainville on Fridays is more significant, which is a higher safety concern to us. So Luminaria Thursday.
And just for the people
November
watching the
30th.
Great Our Management Style, when they said "we," it didn't include me. That's called empowering your staff. So I have nothing to do with it. So,
Hope you can make
We
it.
all
Yeah,
thought it was
yeah,
a great
so-
decision, didn't we,
so
guys?
we do empower. Because somebody asked me, I got an idea for a band next year. I said, you don't understand. It's not my decision.
David has said delegate. So delegate I do.
So,
David delegates and I delegate.
And also, success has 1,000 authors and defeat is an orphan. So if it's successful, we'll take credit.
Yes.
If
Yes.
not, we're going to say it was your fault. So sorry about that. Just thought I'd lighten the mood a little bit.
Sorry for
Thank you.
interrupting.
And thanks for jumping in and clarifying that. So on NED, an update, our weekly watering through the summer when we did not have rainfall was completed. That was a great investment to make sure that our trees get a stronger opportunity to root now this fall. So we have our 2022 contractor coming back during this optimal tree planting period to address any issues that happened with trees from last fall. And we have our 2023 contractor who is out planting as we speak, and will be planting through probably the end of the month. depending on the weather. So a lot of activity. We appreciate people being safe and navigating around the different crews that are out there.
Again, and I'm going to go point out, and now I sound like I've been hanging around Brian too long here, but but when I see the headline, Columbia Township invest $500,000 in neighbors through the net, I know we get caught up in the mundane, but that's pretty special what you guys have all been able to execute when we challenge this program, but that's a lot of money invested directly into the neighborhoods for the quality of life. I see the trees down on Wooster Pike and some of the things going on, even the street signs, the architectural street signs in my neighborhood, the trees in Madison Place, Ridgewood, gas lights. It's fun to see, and it's just hard not to take that in when we go deal with the day-to-day grind of all the different things we do wrong and right and all that. But that's the exciting part that we just should really, we should stand up and get excited about. You know,
And it's non-tax.
non-tax
revenue.
Yes. And it was just an opportunity to take some of the winnings that we've been able to do through the township to go give directly back into the residential neighborhoods. I mean, obviously, we invest in the businesses through some of those tools, but this is a good way to go say, how can we challenge this group of people to come up with a system, a fair system, to invest in each and every neighborhood, each and every household and neighborhood in the community, to show them that, all right, we got medical marijuana, okay, we got Jet Z money, how does this help us? That was a direct way to say, here's an attempt to do it, and it's unprecedented. So I like what we did there. So thank you. As this is all coming to head, I love to see it.
Thank you. So, big news on the Madison Place Firehouse. On Monday, October 16th, we went out to public bid for the firehouse. We held a pre-bid open house for potential bidders to get to know us, to go through the plans, to walk around the firehouse, to ask questions. And then throughout the month-long bid process, whenever there are questions that are posed by potential bidders, we collect those, answer them, and then post them to a bid clearinghouse so that all potential bidders can see those clarifications or additional details. Tomorrow we have, at I believe it's 2 p.m., we will open public bids for the firehouse. We already have one. So we will see what happens tomorrow, and that'll be the next step in the feasibility of moving forward with our firehouse. So we will let everyone know the outcome of that. And if, as you're aware, if any decision is made to consider and recommend a bid to the trustees, we will bring that back to the trustees in a public meeting for full discussion. Under, let's see, neighborhoods, I don't think I have an update from last time. Services. We heard under modernizing our roads and increasing safety, we heard that the Cambridge East application, after several years, scored well this year, because most of the larger projects that scored better have been funded and built, and so they're off the list. They're out of the line in front of us, and we're moving forward in line. So we should hear something by the end of December as to whether we are awarded a grant loan combo, and then we will look at that for design in 2024, and then start construction immediately following that. And that's going to take a lot of resident coordination because it's a very dense street with a lot of on-street parking. So that's going to be one that's going to require a lot of staff resources to make sure that we get it right. And it's Little Miami Scenic Trail, Columbia Connector, the extension to Marymount Great Parks is working to schedule a meeting here, I think before the end of November, to begin discussing with Marymount and Columbia Township opportunities for matching funds to some of the federal funds that Great Parks has been successful in securing, and then seeking formal partnership agreements for those. And so those are some conversations that we'll need to have here in the next month or two about the next steps of that extension.
Can I add one point to this?
Please.
Somewhat separate. So the Little Miami Scenic Trail and Columbia Connector will connect in Marymount. There's a public meeting this Thursday that I will be at, but it's really for Marymount residents primarily, but it's about the traffic and how the engineers are going to design it down Miami Avenue, down the hill. and that is a challenging place to extend the trail. So there's a public meeting 6 to 8 p.m. this Thursday at Marymount Elementary School,
That's what I usually.
and it's primarily for Marymount residents. That's their intersection.
It's for the that's for the Marymount connector.
Yes.
So yes. So that's the next piece. We're
Yes.
Columbia connector. So bringing it up the hill on US 50 and
Yes,
connecting.
has its
and
own
then-
challenges.
And then Marymount connector is bringing it is dealing with the crossing Worcester, crossing Plainville, and then crossing Miami. So a lot of challenges.
Yeah, so if you're interested, I know a lot of Columbia Township residents are interested to go.
Where's the meeting and when?
At Marymount Elementary School, Thursday.
Mike usually
Mike
goes to
Ty will be
those.
there, I'm sure.
We usually go to those,
Thursday, November 16th, 6 to 8. That's this Thursday. They'll have engineers there. All of the Marymount people will be there.
One thing I guarantee you about that meeting, they all won't agree.
No.
Okay.
No.
So-
Groups again.
yeah.
It's a
so-
contentious
so
topic, but
we do know that. Yeah.
people should be listening and be educated on the matter, for sure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, and thanks for
pointing that out.
attending.
I didn't have that on my calendar.
I didn't know that either. So
That's all.
okay.
Thank you.
Great stuff. And again, thank you to the police department and everything you guys do. So I appreciate that and appreciate the fact that we're continuing to do good things. And timely that you came in and spoke about that. So thank you. Any other questions about the administrator report? Okay. That we move on to the economic development report. Dustin will be coming in, I guess, not,
Next month? Or January?
yeah, he would.
I think it's January.
January. Looks like January. So we'll see him in January, but I think we got a pretty good beat on what's going on in our area from the administrator's report. That we move on to the police report with Lieutenant Neighbor.
Welcome, everybody, this month. I noticed our budget was almost just shy of 11 million. I chipped in a couple of pennies.
Number one expense in the township,
A
Sheriff.
lot of grant funds. Don't forget ARPA grant funds on that.
Jokes aside, October 28th, we had the the DEA's drug take back program. We got 17.25 pounds of prescription medications. And it was kind of last minute notification to the public, so for such short notification, we did a real good job of having that up at the district. I don't know if the public has been noticing an uptick in police officers in your neighborhood driving around, a lot of traffic stops being made. Basically the past quarter, but even more so the last month. I've asked our traffic unit to come into District 4 to hit the streets and write more citations and stop more cars and do more warnings to do an uptick in our traffic enforcement. So it's one of those kind of behind the scenes things that I've been working on, just trying to improve our traffic enforcement in the area, to improve the quality of life, because it seems like the traffic is crazier these days. I don't know if anybody's noticing this, because I sure have been.
So when you say the traffic enforcement, you mean in areas that you've heard from our residents and or us that you feel have been more sensitive, or what do you mean by that?
Both.
Okay.
Both.
Both as in what?
Both as in what the residents have reached out to me. Some of the residents have reached out to me and talked about different parking complaints in certain areas, more the denser streets, trying to make sure that these cars that are on the street are valid and they are legally parked and that type of thing. In addition to the other half to that, the second part is I've just noticed people driving faster and driving more reckless on the streets. And I don't like to see that, so I asked traffic to come over and assist our patrol officers in driving around the area and looking for violations. So just a little bit more proactive.
The reason why I asked that is because it's nice to inform our residents of what's coming, because there are residents, there are taxers. We'd like to see the outside people that don't yet get the understanding, to be dealt with, but we'd like to at least give them the tip off, because the ultimate goal is to get them to slow down, whether they're in or out of the community. So it'd be just nice to give notice that, hey guys, heads up, it's coming to your community, because.
And that's part of why I'm telling this. I'm just trying to let the public know that we are out there a little bit more. So.
And if you could just take it to Marymount people and the Madera people, and that would be great.
I was.
It's a joke.
No, that's not necessarily a joke, but I mean, the objective is to inform our citizens of the slow down and ticket the others, well, ideally, okay, but everybody ultimately need that slow down, and go ahead. Sure, go.
The international crime rate, I know it hit Emily Village. Have you heard about it, what's going on?
The international crime
They've
rate.
come in robbing houses, mostly in affluent neighborhoods, but they did strike Emily Village. I don't know if you heard. There was a chase, I don't know, but Cincinnati's involved in it, they were breaking in houses, mostly affluent houses, like Hyde Park.
Well, I can tell you, our community has been very, very safe since I've taken over as district commander. I can't express to the Columbia Township residents that it's a very, very low rate of crime in general. And when it comes to violation of people's houses, there hasn't been anything in the 2 years I've been here. Not that it can't happen, but Amberly has not reached out to me and did not probably tell me about that, whatever you're talking about. I'll have to do, but I'll talk to the chief probably more and find out about that.
Yeah. It's all over social media.
I heard on the news last week, they said 4 women in Pleasant Ridge were attacked. And I've been waiting to hear it again. I haven't heard anything. Have you?
I know there's a buzz going around right now in social media. I've had many
Right now or always?
Yeah, true, but more specifically, recently, a lot of the young population have been watching TikTok videos, and I've heard on TikTok there's this rumor going around that, and it's been completely debunked, that the homicide rate has been upticked in the city of Cincinnati, and there's no valid truth to that whatsoever, according to what the chief of police for Cincinnati put out. That it was completely false and basically rumor mongering amongst the younger population, because majority of the people on TikTok are in the age range of 20 to 30 years old, and the 20 to 30 year olds were the ones reaching out to me asking me questions, and I'm like, this is not true. This is somebody's making this up, and it's not true.
So I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah. So I, Ms. Hughes, I haven't heard anything about that.
Okay.
I'll look into it too.
So don't get your news off TikTok, that's the moral of the story.
Correct.
Don't
look
get
to
your
social
news
media.
Okay,
online.
I didn't mean to interrupt you, so are you done with your report then?
I feel like I have one more thing. I guess I forgot. Go
I
ahead.
have a question, if it might jar your memory. You've had at least 4 business days since the election to come up with any, if any, new protocols for recreational marijuana, and I'm kidding.
Now it's-
I'm not expecting anything to be.
That's what I wanted to talk about, actually.
Okay.
Since it was brought up earlier about the recreational marijuana, there are a lot of things that have to go on for us to put a new law into practice. In fact, I've spent the last 2 days consulting with police officers from all around the country, specifically from the ones that are in the states that have legalized marijuana, and what it's done to affect their communities. The National Academy, I went to the FBI's National Academy, it gave me 250 voices to ask these kind of questions from. And I've collected 2 pages of topics that will directly affect police agencies and how it goes into effect and what it's going to do. There's many different aspects. There's what about canines and searches and how do we deal with discarding drugs that get brought in? You can't have alcohol in the Justice Center. You also can't have any other intoxicants, including marijuana, into the Justice Center. So we'll have to find a way to collect that and dispose of it, just like we would alcohol. I mean, just little stupid things you wouldn't even think about as far as it is. The other officers explained to me that they saw a rise in homeless populations. So how do we address those the houseless people that are out there? How do we address and take care of those people? We also there's many aspects how it's going to affect law enforcement and the communities that are now going to be changed by these new laws.
Abuse is going to go up. They've seen abuse go up. They've seen a lot of juveniles overdosing. So how do you address those issues? And that's not even the legal side of this. So to your point about the time frame and how long it's going to be before it's completely in effect, just hold on to your hat, because there's going to be a lot of new case law and new legislation that has to follow with that, as far as how it's going to affect dispensaries, who's going to be in charge of the dispensaries, who's monitoring dispensaries, who's going around and making sure they're licensed properly. There's a lot to come, and it's going to take a while for all that to filter out.
You seem well prepared, thank you.
Meanwhile, please continue to buy
Medical marijuana in Columbia Township only.
Columbia Township. Most convenient.
And to that end, for the public, I really need to stress that. Right now, our dispensaries that are here in Columbia Township are approved by the FDA. They're monitored. They're very closely monitored to make sure that they're the best, highest quality, at the same time, safest marijuana that's out there. So to the public who is watching this right now, please, if you are buying marijuana, please continue buying it through a dispensary, legally through a dispensary, and at least you're safer there, because there are cases of marijuana being laced with other drugs that can affect your loved ones. So please, please, please continue to buy from a authorized dispensary and not from your buddy or somebody you may know. Just because we've just passed new legislation doesn't mean that your dangers have gone away. So please consider that.
Sounds like a commercial for our two marijuana dispensary clinic, so thank you. We'll end with that. Okay, that we move on to the Little Miami District Report and the Deer Park Silverton Report with Mr. Lamar, who serves graciously on the board.
I'm glad Ms. Taylor mentioned what we're voting on, and the Fairfax is voting on with the restructuring the debt. That takes pressure off me for mentioning that, so thank you. So the only other thing I wanted to mention was at Little Miami Fire Station in Fairfax, there's Breakfast with Santa. Put it on your calendar for Saturday, December 16th. It's a great event. The firemen will bake pancakes and sausage, and there'll be a Santa, lots of pictures and things to do at the firehouse. So the morning of Saturday, December 16th. That's all I have.
Okay. Now we move on to trustee reports. Anything to report? Anything new to report?
I have a couple things.
Okay.
Big surprise. First of all, I wanted to thank Good Shepherd Montessori School. They installed curbs and cleared a drainage area from the top of their property, which will help water flow into that area. And it's another tiny little thing. We're never going to solve the flooding in that area, because Mother Nature, we know, will win every time. But they have been great partners in that they've done a lot of little things that will add up to hopefully a big thing to stop it. And so they spent a lot of money to do that. And it looks good. There's now a new curb on the left when you drive up there, and the right. So I wanted to mention them as great partners in the neighborhood. And then I wanted to mention, re-mention Meek. They need donations, they need food. They're in Madisonville. They serve the whole community in Madisonville and Columbia Township and that whole area. And the final thing is that we have a relatively new business in the township, Mid-Century Modern Rescue, and they're in the building in Cambridge. And they're doing a blood drive. And this is on December 2nd. I wonder if you can get this, Elliot. Saturday, December 2nd in the morning. Don't just stop by. They only take appointments for the most part. So on December 2nd, thank you, Elliot. Blood drive, and it's for a good cause. If you can't give to MEAC, and it's a tough time for lots of people, we all want to give to charity. This is a way to give back. Giving blood will save lives. And apparently this is a great little perk, is you don't just get cookies and orange juice. They're giving away pants. So they will give Hawksworth lounge pants when you give blood. So what a great cause. So you can come to our party on November 30th on Thursday night, and then give blood on the 2nd in the same neighborhood. And
Wear your new pants.
Wear your new pants on the 3rd. Yeah. Thanks, Susan.
Wins all around.
Okay.
I wanted to say something.
Please.
Excuse me. When our trees were planted, they weren't in bloom. Now they are. And I have to say, they really are beautiful. Mm-hmm. They picked the real right colors. I'd like to know the difference in the prices of the trees, because the real pretty ones, we got them now. And I just wanted to say thank you.
I'm glad, I appreciate that. Jerry did a great job designing trees specific to the environment of each neighborhood and each street and each lot. Understanding what's below and what's above. And the trees come from nurseries in different sizes and offerings. And so he then did the research to determine if the number of trees that he selected for certain planting locations were actually commercially or wholesale available and within a driving range that could be purchased and bought. And so he did all that research to make it easier, so we did not get into a situation where a contractor provided a bid and then the contractor couldn't source the trees, and then there were too many exceptions, and then the whole plan went awry. He thought through every single detail, and so there are differences in some of the sizes of the trees because of how the different nurseries grow them and make them available at different times of the year. So, and we can definitely talk to Jerry in detail about that.
Because it really does make a difference. Down through Seven Hills on Red Bank Road, you just love to just look forward to seeing those.
Yes.
Every tree in front of that place is gorgeous.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you for bringing
And
that
in
up.
a few more years, they'll be even more impressive. So,
Yeah.
thank you, Susan.
And again, thanks to the whole team of sourcing out everything, the systems, the place, and even the people. And Jerry, we get rave reviews. He's almost as popular as Lauren.
Jerry is more popular. He's very popular.
We call him the tree whisperer.
Yeah.
He's like the horse whisperer. He just starts talking and people go, I get it.
This makes sense.
Yeah.
He's converting people one at a time.
Okay, that we move on to the communications. Any questions about the communications? Okay, then we're going to move on to the resolutions, and since I'm not very good at staying in my lane, we're going to hand it up to Melissa to read the resolutions.
So we have 5 resolutions this evening. We're going to vote on 4 of them. The first is a supplemental resolution, so one reading only, to supplement Resolution 2268, 2022, Columbia Township's 2023 annual appropriation amended, and supplemental appropriations 2303, 04, 11, 14, 19, 24, 26, 29, 33, and 38 of 2023. As we get to the end of each budget year, some accounts, due to variations in actual expenses versus estimated expenses, need adjusting. So we just have 2 accounts that we have listed, $15,000 in one and $7,600 in the other, that need a little extra boost to get over the finish line at the end of the year. Are there any questions? May I have a motion and a second to pass the resolution?
So moved. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Roll call.
Mr. Lamar?
Yes.
Mr. Kubicki?
Here.
Ms. Hughes?
Here.
Yes. Okay, I'll be chastised if I don't make that right. The answer is yes, not here. I'm correct. Okay, go ahead, Melissa.
Okay, so that the resolution is approved. So Resolution 2340, this is also a financial resolution, but because it involves transferring funds from one fund to another, it requires the trustee vote. When we transfer within funds, we're allowed to do so by law, staff. But when we need to move money from one fund to another fund, we come before the trustees. It's very rare that we do it. The only fund that we transfer from is general fund because it's flexible, it's unrestricted, and the only funds that we transfer to are the restricted funds. So when the restricted funds run short, we are able to transfer money from general funds. So this resolution is authorizing a transfer of funds from General Fund 1000 to Fund 2194 to finance certain expenditures for the Silverton Fire District, dispensing with the second reading and declaring an emergency. I have shared before that over the years, with the trustees being very conservative in terms of not seeking new levies from the public and finding new funding sources, OPM, my favorite 3 initials, other people's money, through the JED-Z, Joint Economic Development Zone, our business income tax, as well as the medical marijuana funds, we have been able to continue to fund our programs even when the cost of the services exceed the levies. This is an example that I've shared before. In the Silverton Fire District, this year again, the revenues that are generated do not cover the cost of the contract with Deer Park Silverton. And so we are asking to, as we have done in prior years, to take money from the general fund and move it into the Silverton Fire District to cover shortfalls for the balance of the year. And also Deer Park Silverton is one of the agencies that bills in advance for the months. Some of the agencies bill us in the month of the service, some agencies bill us after the month of service, and some agencies bill us in the month before services. So when we get to the end of the year and we have agencies that bill a month in advance for services, we have to pay in December for January services, and that is the case with the Deer Park Silverton. So this is requesting to transfer. We already had appropriated in the budget an additional $10,000 to supplement the Silverton Fire District levy. We need an additional $15,000 to honor our contract with Deer Park Silverton through the end of the year. So do you have any questions for that? So this is an emergency, so we will have 3 motions. So may I have a motion and a second to pass the resolution?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Lamar?
Yes.
Mr. Kubicki?
Yes.
Ms. Hughes?
Yes.
May I have a motion and a second to
So
dispense with
moved.
this? I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry, go.
May I have a motion and a second to dispense with the second reading?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Lamar?
Yes.
Mr. Kubicki?
Yes.
Ms. Hughes?
May I have a
Yes.
motion and a second to invoke the emergency
So
clause?
moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Lamar?
Yes.
Mr. Kubicki?
Yes.
Ms. Hughes?
Yes.
Okay, 2 more just like that to
Oh,
go.
boy.
All right. Resolution 2241, authorizing the administrator to enter into a contract with Madison Tree Care and Landscaping to remove diseased and damaged street trees as part of NED. Phase 2, Neighborhood Economic Development Program, dispensing with the second reading and declaring an emergency. You're already aware of this drill, as we mentioned earlier, that as part of NED, our arborist evaluates all of the street trees. We had 700 before we did NED Phase 1. We picked up additional almost 300 or low 3s with NED Phase 1, so now we're up to 1,000. And then in NED Phase 2, we'll pick up an extra 300 trees, so we'll be at 1,300 trees. So those trees will be added to our tree inventory. Each fall, as we're installing new trees, we need to remove those that are damaged or diseased or dying. And so this is a contract. We went out for a request for proposals for landscaping companies, and the proposal that we're recommending is from Madison Tree Care and Landscaping for the tree removals, and they are listed on in the resolution: Ridgewood, Brackenridge, Lasanta Ridge, Cambridge, Vinewood, Ashley View, Walton Creek Road. The total contract is $14,450, and as is our protocol, we always notify and talk to each owner in advance of the tree removal. Do I have any questions?
Is that paid for in the NED?
Yes, that is paid for out of NED. Mr. Lamar?
Oh, Jerry must just hate this, but oh well. Have to do it.
Yeah. So, may I have a motion and a second to approve the resolution?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Lamar?
Yes.
Mr. Kubicki?
Yes.
Ms. Hughes?
Yes.
May I have a motion and a second to dispense with the second reading?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Lamar?
Yes.
Mr. Kubicki?
Yes.
Ms. Hughes?
Yes.
May I have a motion and a second to invoke the emergency
I'm
clause?
still moved.
Second.
Second.
Mr. Lamar?
Yes.
Mr. Kubicki?
Yes.
Ms. Hughes?
Yes.
Okay.
Last resolution to vote. Resolution 2342, authorizing the administrator to prepare and submit an application to the Ohio Department of Development Building Demolition and Site Revitalization Program, and to execute a subrecipient agreement with Hamilton County Land Reutilization Corporation as required for 6805 Cambridge Avenue and 5770 Stewart Road, dispensing with the second reading and declaring an emergency. So, on all grants, a reminder that I, as administrator, am not allowed to apply for grants without the trustees' permission. And grants often are announced, and we will have anywhere from 30 days to 60 days, sometimes longer, sometimes it's a matter of weeks when we have to jump on it and apply for grants. So it has been our practice that we will, if we know that we have a potential need or a known need, I will come to you, as I do with Ohio Public Works Commission for road projects, to get your you to authorize me to go ahead and basically chase the grant, apply, and if we are awarded, then we will have a conversation about whether it is a fit for, and we want to move forward with the grant. So applying for a grant and receiving a grant is not a commitment for the grant. The obligation occurs in signing the grant agreement. So this is a one-time only, never before grant that came down from the Department of Development. It came down very quickly, and I outlined, and I know that Mr. Ty asked about this earlier, and so it's outlined, his question, the answer to his question is outlined in the resolution, that if the township is awarded funds for one or both of these proposed sites, administration will draft redevelopment plans and budgets for one or both of the awarded sites for public discussion and action by the Board of Trustees in 2024. So this is a grant application that's due this month. It's a grant program that is not available until 2024. It'll probably be after the first quarter of 2024. So we do know that when we have a condemned house, which is 5770 Stewart, and the owners are non-responsive, our property management code, as well as the Hamilton County Public Health, and other agencies, police, fire, are involved in determining that status. And then it falls on the township to either secure a home or demolish a home, pay for it with our resources, and then file on the property taxes. Because this is a one-time grant program, it's intended to demolish structures that are obsolete or condemned, and look at that site as an opportunity for either revitalization of that site, or how does demolishing the property revitalize the sites around it. So that is why I put forward, we had a demolition that we were proceeding with a year ago at 5441 El Marie, and at the last minute a buyer stepped in and purchased it from us after several years' worth of work and demolished it. So that took it off of the township's back and out of the township's coffers. We now have another house, and potentially we'll have another one in another year or so. So this will assist us with that one, again, from a non-responsive owner. But that, again, all will be legislation that I'll bring forward to you. And then on 6805 Cambridge, one of the options when we made the recommendation to purchase Cambridge was because it's one of the largest lots in the downtown. I'm just going back just very briefly, but we can talk about this more when we bring a redevelopment plan forward for that property in 2024, in the event that we receive this grant, is that every prospect that we have brought to the Plainville Business District and walked around and shown properties to have looked around and asked, where's the parking? And public parking, and there's none. And so one of the options when administration made the recommendation to the trustees a year ago to purchase 6805 Cambridge was that the building is considered by state standards obsolete. There are a number of code issues with it, but it's most valuable if the trustees decide that that's what you actually want to do with the building. It would be my recommendation, and also the county's recommendation, for support of redevelopment of more viable properties like the firehouse at 6904 and like the property at 6896 Murray, which are two other properties that we're looking at redeveloping, refurbishing. So Tonight, I'm simply asking for permission to go ahead and go after this grant. I have a lot of materials that I have had to do research to be prepared and to move forward, and then I need to move quickly to make that application. So is there any, are there any questions? May I ask, offer any other information?
First of all, I want to commend you on identifying the grant and applying
Yeah.
for it. I know our staff is very busy, and this is one of the primary reasons why we can provide such great services to our township is that we identify grants, and that's thank you and the team.
And Dustin Montgomery. Dustin
Absolutely.
Montgomery heard of this, even before it hit my email, Dustin Montgomery had heard of it, and so he brought that forward.
Dustin
and
is on it.
Yes, he's on
Awesome.
it.
So thank you for that.
Yes.
And this is not a committal to do anything. It is just applying for the grant. And so if there's public feedback of either of those two properties, you have time to do that.
Okay?
Any further questions?
Nope.
All right, so may I have a motion and, I'm sorry. Yeah, may I have a motion and a second to pass the
I make a
resolution?
motion, we pass the resolution. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Lamar?
Yes.
Mr. Kubicki?
Yes.
Ms. Hughes?
Yes.
May I have a motion and a second to dispense with the second reading?
Still moved. Do I hear a
Second.
second? Roll call.
Mr. Lamar?
Yes.
Mr. Kubicki?
Yes.
Ms. Hughes?
Yes.
May I have a motion and a second to invoke the emergency clause?
I'm still in. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Mr. Lamar?
Yes.
Mr. Kubicki? Ms. Hughes?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, the final resolution, 2343, is first reading only. We will have the second reading at either a special meeting later this month or at our December meeting. Declaring improvements to certain parcels of real property in Columbia Township to be a public purpose under Section 5709.73B of the Ohio Revised Code, exempting such improvements from real property taxation, declaring certain public improvements to be necessary for further development of these parcels, and establishing a tax increment equivalent fund and dispensing with the second reading. So I have forgot about dispensing with the second reading, so if this is voted on tonight, then it will not be in effect for 30 days. There'll be an opportunity for public comment for 30 days, but we would not have to come back and have a second reading, so I'll clarify that. So this is on Wooster Pike, on the former Snooty Fox site. The owner of that building did not renew the lease for Snooty Fox and sold the building, and the building was demolished and is being redeveloped as a Chase Bank. This is an opportunity for us to put a TIF district in place for that specific building and utilize new tax revenues for new value above and beyond the existing value for necessary public improvements only in that Wooster Corridor District. So this is not a full TIF, it's a short TIF, so it's 75% for 10 years, which requires us to notify the school district and the VOTEC district, which we did, and invite them to participate in this evening's meeting if they had any concerns or questions. They both signed off and returned the materials to me. And so I'd like to present this to you for another opportunity for us to begin to build up funds, again, that helps us defer having to raise property taxes to be able to use for eligible public improvements only in that corridor.
Do we know, did the original owner sell the site to another party? Is that
Yes.
definitive? Okay, so, and do we know what that sale price was by any chance?
No, I did know, I
It's okay.
looked on the website and I don't remember, I'm sorry.
Okay. Okay.
Where on the Wooster Pike corridor could that TIF money be spent?
Typically, when you do a project site TIF, it's within a mile.
Fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, perfect.
That's through case law has been established. It's not specific in the language, but through
And can
case law.
TIF funds from that area, they could be used to even help out with the fire department too, could they?
TIF funds can be used for capital improvements at fire districts, absolutely. Not operating, but capital improvements, yes.
Got it.
And that has been part of the conversation about some of the TIFs that we have, just a few TIFs that we have in the Ridge Fire District generate more funds in an area where we don't own the roads and the fire district costs are lower. Whereas we don't have TIFs on the east side, in the Wooster, Plainville areas, where our fire district costs are significantly higher, and we own more roads. So having an additional TIF, albeit small and short, will continue to help that.
And on that incremental increase in taxes, with being in that school district, does the school district get their cut on the incremental increases, or is it not the case?
The school district receives payments whenever you pass a full 100% TIF for 30 years. When you pass an abbreviated TIF, 75% for 10 years, the school continues to receive the
25%.
tax payments that it received before any new structure was built on the property.
And just because we're going through this, and this is a clever idea of doing this, and to take a slightly deep dive, just from my development experience.
And it's a state statutory economic development tool. The state put it into legislation as a development tool for communities.
What we're basically looking at is Snooty Fox had a valuation, a property valuation, which they call the baseline, of presumably $500,000. Just, we'll throw out a number, and when Chase Bank gets built, developed, the land purchase, the sale gets built, it'll probably have a $2.5 million valuation. So there's a $2 million captured increase in revenues, and Melissa's now saying, let's take those revenues, a $2 million increase. Let's say it's roughly 2% as your real estate taxes, or whatever it would be, the portion of it we can now use for funds that we can use along the Worcester Pike corridor. You can use it for
Road
bike trails,
improvements.
road improvements, capital improvements to the
Public
fire district.
improvements.
So it's just a clever way of taking our economic development team and capturing those funds and keeping them in the township. So kudos, and it's only on the increase. I mean, whatever was paid will always be paid, and 25% of what's being paid in the future will always be paid to all the entities. But we capture 75% of the increases, and you said for 15 years?
10
years.
10.
10
When the
years.
state established the program, it was designed exactly for that purpose, because the cost of improvements, public improvements, and the cost of capital improvements, public capital improvements, outpace the levies. And this was a way to capture new revenue for a short period of time to invest in public improvements only, and get those public improvements up to speed and help the communities that did not have the funds to make those public improvements. And then all of the tax revenue comes onto the tax duplicate, and then starts going out to all the different agencies.
And if you break it down to dollars, if you take 2%, $2 million increase, it's 40 grand. You take 25% off, you're probably talking about $30,000 a year for 10 years, 300 grand that we've captured to keep in the community. And I only say this because it's nice to get rid of a little education. We don't just sit here and do nothing, but it goes back to, you said, the grants and her looking out for, that this is why we're proud of this team. With some of the flaws we have, these are the big decisions that we get involved in that make a difference. That, as I always say, I'm glad we have you and certain people on our team. So thank you. Great idea. Didn't mean to go too deep into it, but it is a big deal. We just hide behind nobody understands, but this is why. This is why we do what we do with, like I said, some of the flaws we have. These are the big decisions that make a big difference, that give us the tools to do great things. So thank you.
We're small but mighty.
There you go.
He said it better than I would, but is that the second TIF in that corridor? Is that correct? Or am I misremembering
There
that?
was a TIF established when Panera was
Okay.
considering, there was not water service to that side of the road. And then we put in place a TIF at Walton Creek to
Right.
help finance the Walton Creek improvements.
Okay.
And so this is the third.
So with all the development there, that money will go to good use.
And as David correctly said, it keeps it in the community for a short
Yes.
period of time. We invest it. It's catalytic. It multiplies. We get lots of rabbits out of it, and then it goes back to the typical
Then it
tax
gets to the
structure.
Wizard of Oz.
Yep.
Wherever it goes.
Behind the green curtain.
So anyway,
right,
great
so-
stuff. Now let's go. Do we have to go vote
So I'm
on
going to
this?
do a first reading and a dispense with a second, and then it's not effective for 30 days, but we will not bring it back.
So we.
Yeah, so I'm going to, may I have a motion and a second to pass the resolution?
I like it. Let's go.
I'll second.
Roll call.
Mr. Lamar?
Yes.
Mr. Kubicki?
Yes.
Ms. Hughes?
Yes.
May I have a motion and a second to dispense with the second reading?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Lamar?
Yes.
Mr. Kubicki?
Yes.
Ms. Hughes?
The resolution will be in effect in 30 days.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, I make a motion to approve the payment of bills, bank reconciliation, and financial reports. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Lamar?
Yes.
Mr. Kubicki?
Yes.
Ms. Hughes?
Yes.
I make a motion to the signing of the minutes and resolutions. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Lamar?
Yes.
Mr. Kubicki?
Yes.
Ms. Hughes?
Yes.
And I make a motion that we adjourn. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Mr. Lamar?
Before I say roll call, we got to say happy Thanksgiving to everybody. So happy Thanksgiving and happy birthday to Lauren Allison. Happy birthday.
Oh, that's
to,
right.
to
Happy
as
birthday.
well. So one of our beloved favorite people here. And happy Thanksgiving to everybody from Columbia Township. So there's always something to be thankful about. So thank you.
Very true.
Okay, make a motion.